In 1950, an ordinary man carried physical weight every day. He woke up early without an alarm because his body demanded it. He made decisions without asking anyone for permission. He endured discomfort without needing a meditation app for it. Not because he was better, because the environment demanded it of him. Today, the environment does the opposite. It delivers comfort before any effort. It solves things before any difficulty. It distracts before any discomfort. And modern man accepts all of this thinking he is evolving. But there is something this comfort is destroying from the inside. Something you will only notice when it's too far gone. Or now. If you stay until the end of this video, you will understand exactly what is being traded and whether the trade is worth it. Let me start with something that seems simple but is not. You did not become who you are by accident. Every habit you have, every tolerance you've lost, everything that used to bother you but today you barely notice, all of this was shaped by the environment you live in. And the modern environment was built with a very specific goal. Not your well-being, your attention. Because attention became a commodity, the most valuable one there is. And to capture your attention, the environment needed to do one thing first. It needed to make you incapable of being without stimulation. Think about what it was like to wake up 30 years ago. A man got up. Silence was the first sound of the day. Coffee took time. The body woke up slowly. There was a space between sleeping and starting. That space wasn't unproductive. It was where the mind organized, processed, prepared. It was where a man found himself before he found the world. That space is gone. Today, the phone is in hand before feet touch the floor. Before any thought of his own, 50 other people's thoughts have already arrived. News, messages, feed, opinion, conflict, urgency. All before coffee. And the brain that should be slowly coming out of rest mode has been thrown directly into the middle of 50 simultaneous demands. This happens every day, 365 days a year. No break, no transition, not a single moment of real silence. And the damage from this doesn't show up today. It shows up in 3 years when the man realizes he can no longer spend 5 minutes alone without seeking stimulation. That he can no longer read 10 pages without checking his phone. That he can no longer be in a conversation without part of his mind being elsewhere. This is not distraction. It is reconditioning. It happened without you signing anything. Without you noticing the exact moment it began. Seneca wrote something in a letter that seems like it was written yesterday. He said, "Retire into yourself as much as you can. Associate with those who will make you better. Welcome those whom you yourself can make better." In a world where everything pulls your attention outward, Seneca already knew that the greatest act of discipline for a man is to protect his internal space. Not from enemies, from everything that enters uninvited. But there is something in this story that goes much deeper than the phone. I'll come back to it in a few minutes. There is a fact that few men know. And when they learn it, most prefer not to believe it. Average testosterone levels in Western men have dropped more than 20% in the last 3 decades. We're not talking about older men. We're talking about men in their 30s today, with hormone levels equivalent to men in their 60s from the previous generation. This is not theory. These are data published in peer-reviewed medical studies. And the question most people ask when they hear this is the wrong one. Most ask, how do I raise my testosterone? The right question is different. What created this environment that brought it down? Because testosterone doesn't drop by accident. It responds to the environment. It responds to the level of physical challenge the body faces. It responds to sleep quality. It responds to chronic stress that never resolves. It responds to the absence of real purpose. Modern man has little physical challenge, fragmented sleep, constant stress with no clear resolution, little purpose beyond fulfilling obligations that never end. The body is responding to the environment, faithfully, as it always has. But here is what no one is saying. Biology is a consequence. What comes before it is behavior. And behavior comes from something even deeper. Epictetus was born a slave. He had no freedom of movement, no choice over where he lived or what he did. But he developed something that no master could take from him: clarity about what was within his control and what was not. He said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about things." Modern man has freedoms Epictetus never had, and yet he is disturbed by things Epictetus would have dismissed in a second. A notification, a stranger's opinion, a number on a screen. This says something about where the real problem lies. Not in the freedom that is lacking, in the clarity that was lost. Hold on to this, because this is where everything will connect. At some point in your life, you made a trade. Not consciously, not at a specific moment you can remember. It was gradual, it was comfortable, it was so natural it seemed like evolution. You traded difficulty for ease, traded waiting for immediacy, traded building for consuming, traded presence for stimulation, and each trade seemed reasonable at the moment it happened. Why wait when you can have it now? Why be uncomfortable when there is an easier solution? Why sit in boredom when endless entertainment is available? The logic of each trade was impeccable. The accumulated result of the trades is the man who wakes up tired before his day begins. The Greeks called this process atrophia. Atrophy. The progressive deterioration of something that is not used. A muscle that is not demanded weakens. Not because it was damaged, because it was not needed. And man has within him a capacity built over thousands of years of evolution. The capacity to face difficulty and find resource within it. To endure discomfort and discover strength in the process. To want something so intensely that the difficult path to it makes sense. This capacity does not disappear all at once. It atrophies. Slowly, silently. Every time you choose the easier path without real need. Every time you avoid the discomfort that could strengthen you. Every time you replace real effort with the sensation of effort. And one day you try to access that capacity in a moment that truly matters. In a difficult decision. In a conversation that requires courage. In a moment when someone depends on you being fully present. And it responds weaker than you expected. Marcus Aurelius ruled the greatest empire in the world. He had access to any pleasure, any comfort, any ease that existed in his time. And yet he wrote to himself in the Meditations, "Do not let your mind become enslaved to your body." A man with absolute power. Writing reminders to not surrender to the comfort he could have without effort. Because he knew what comfort without resistance does to a man. Even when that man is an emperor. I need to tell you about a kidnapping. Not the kind that appears on the news. The kind that happens inside your own head. Without violence, without drama, with your full cooperation. Your brain has a reward system that evolved to keep you alive. Food, connection, achievement, creation. This system uses dopamine as a signal. You do something worthwhile, the brain releases dopamine, you feel good, you want to repeat it. Simple, functional for thousands of years. Then the 21st century arrived and brought something this system had never encountered before. Artificially intense stimuli that release dopamine without demanding anything in return. A notification, a like, a new video before the previous one ends. Feeds that never finish. Each of these stimuli was engineered by entire teams of behavioral scientists to trigger your brain's reward system in the most efficient way possible. They are very good at what they do. The result is a recalibrated brain that learned to expect high reward for low effort. And when you go to do something that requires real effort, that takes time, that is difficult, the brain compares it to the standard it learned and resists. Not because you are lazy, because your reward system has been hacked. Seneca wrote about this with a precision that is impressive coming from a first-century man. He said, "It is the mark of a great man to disdain great things and to prefer moderation to excess." Moderation not as deprivation, as protection of the internal system, as a refusal to let easy pleasure determine what you are capable of doing. The recovery of this system does not happen through willpower alone. It happens with something that goes against everything the modern environment sells you. It happens with intentional deprivation, with choosing discomfort when comfort is available, with letting boredom exist without immediately filling it, with demanding that your own system work for pleasure instead of receiving it passively. Remember what I said at the beginning about what is being taken from you without you noticing. It's time to close that loop. The phone before coffee is the symptom. The cause is deeper. The modern environment doesn't just distract you. It removes from you the need to be necessary. The man of 1950 was necessary in concrete, daily ways. The car broke down and he needed to know how to fix it. The family faced hardship and he needed to solve it. Work required physical presence and tangible responsibility. There were immediate consequences for absence and incompetence. The environment demanded a functional, present version of him every day. Today, the environment has outsourced almost all of this. A ride-sharing app solves transportation. Food delivery solves meals. Streaming solves boredom. Credit solves the lack of immediate money. Modern man can go weeks without needing to be truly necessary for anything. And a man who is not necessary begins to lose his sense of purpose. Not consciously. As a low, constant feeling that something doesn't make sense. That he is fulfilling functions but not living a purpose. That he is present but doesn't truly matter. Marcus Aurelius lost children, faced wars, governed under constant pressure for nearly 2 decades. And even in the midst of all of this he wrote, "You waste the time you do not live, for life is the present." Not the past you carry, not the future you plan, the present you are wasting while managing your own image on a screen. This phrase is not motivation. It is a diagnosis of the same problem modern man has 2,000 years later. We have reached the place I promised at the beginning. And I'll be direct. The way out is not a protocol. It is not a list of habits to add to an already full routine. It is not waking up at 5 in the morning if you don't know why you're waking up. The way out begins with a decision that seems small but is not. The decision to stop avoiding what is difficult when the difficult thing is exactly what you need. Not always, not in everything, but in at least one thing per day that the modern environment would give you the option to outsource. And you do not outsource. One difficult conversation you have instead of avoid. One problem you solve instead of delegate while watching a series. One physical discomfort you push through instead of immediately relieve. One moment of silence you endure instead of fill with stimulation. Each of these choices is a signal you send to your own system. The signal that you are still capable of demanding something of yourself. Epictetus said something that seems harsh but is liberating when you truly hear it. Never say about anything that you have lost it, but that you have returned it. You didn't lose presence. You didn't lose strength. You didn't lose the weight your grandfather had. You temporarily returned it to the environment that offered you comfort in exchange. And what was returned can be reclaimed, decision by decision, day by day. Without an audience, without validation, without needing anyone to know. We return to the beginning, to the man of 1950 who woke up without an alarm. He wasn't better than you. He had fears, he had flaws, he had limitations you don't have. But he had one thing that the environment demanded of him every day: the obligation to be whole, to be truly present, to be necessary in ways that could not be outsourced. You live in a world that no longer demands this. And this seems like freedom. But freedom without direction is not freedom. It is drift. And a man adrift arrives somewhere. Just not where he would choose if he were in control. You still have control. But it's not in the app. It's not in the next productivity routine. It's not in the next motivation video. It's in a choice you can make now. Or 10 years from now when the cost is greater. The Stoics did not preach perfection. They preached awareness, knowing what is happening inside you, not to surrender to it, but to not be governed by it without realizing it. The man who doesn't know he is losing his edge makes decisions like a man who is losing his edge. At work, at home, with his children, with himself. And the consequences arrive. They always arrive. The difference is that when they arrive without warning, the damage is greater. You don't need to solve everything today. You need to start listening to what has been being said inside you for longer than you admit. A question before you close this video. At what moment in your life did you feel that real weight? That presence your grandfather had? That you yourself once had at some point? Write in the comments. Just one sentence. Because that memory is the map back to who you can be.